I had a Monday queue of HR tickets to triage. My motive was to survive probation without screwing up. My role was the person who logs complaints and routes them. And my plan was to lurk 4chan for 5 dumb minutes on break, steal a generic how to write a complaint template, then go back to work. Probation made everything feel like a trap. One bad tag, one missed escalation, one sloppy note, and you're not a culture fit. I was intake, the mailbox, the hands on the keyboard that turned people's worst days into case numbers. I didn't get to fix anything. I just pushed misery down lanes and tried not to become the story. I took my break in the kitchen because my desk was in a bullpen where everyone could see your screen and judge your pace. Microwave hum, cheap coffee, someone complaining about parking. I opened 4chan on my phone like an idiot because I wanted a clean template. I'd seen employees write raw, messy complaints and then get dismissed for tone or not enough dates. I figured I could grab a generic structure and share it later if anyone asked. 5 minutes, in and out. The thread looked helpful on purpose. If your boss is abusive, here's wording that gets taken seriously. People posted drafts, other anons edited them. Everyone acted like saints. I copied a template and pasted it into my notes. Nothing illegal, nothing scary. I went back to my queue and did the normal grind. Open, skim tag, route log. I forgot about the thread until lunch. By lunch, the first complaint hit my inbox with that exact phrasing. Then another, then 5 more. Different employees, same cadence, same weird punctuation. It felt like a choir reading from one mouth. At first, I tried to laugh it off. Viral template. People share stuff. Then I put 2 tickets side by side and my stomach tightened. Same double space after periods. Same weird dash. Same typo in retaliation. Same line about confidentiality to the extent possible, like it came out of a dispenser. But the content didn't match. One person claimed their supervisor screamed in a meeting. Another claimed their time cards got altered. Another described notes left on their windshield. Different departments, different buildings, different states. The only thing they shared was the script. I told my manager. I kept it clinical. I said it looked coordinated, not organic, and we should slow down and verify before we start flinging cases around. My manager told me to move faster. I argued because the stories didn't match, and he told me I was green and didn't understand patterns. I logged them anyway, because that's what HR does when it's scared. It processes. He hovered behind me while I routed them like he was watching a cashier. He wanted the dashboard green. He wanted the aging report quiet. I pushed one complaint to legal because it used the phrase potential litigation in a way that sounded coached, and legal immediately asked for metadata exports and audit trails. That's when I started feeling my name getting welded to this. Every ticket I touched left my initials in the log. Every click became a breadcrumb. That night, I opened 4chan again because I needed to know if I was imagining it. I refreshed the thread and felt my throat close up. That night, a new 4chan reply appeared with a screenshot of my ticket dashboard. My internal tags, my initials, the timestamp of me routing one complaint to legal. Caption: "She's our mailbox now." I sat there staring at it, trying to come up with a sane explanation. An employee could have taken a picture of their own screen. A contractor could have had access. Someone could have been shoulder surfing. None of those made me feel better. The screenshot meant somebody could see inside the process, and they wanted strangers to know it. The next morning, my workday felt contaminated. Every notification sounded louder. Every time the system loaded, I expected to see my own name posted somewhere. I tried to escalate to IT without sounding insane. I said I'd seen internal UI screenshots floating online. The IT guy gave me a tired smile and told me to submit a request. Through the same system. I did it anyway and watched it sit untouched. The helpful thread turned ugly fast. Anons began demanding updates like I owed them. They started naming people in my company, guessing who would crack first, laughing about who'd get fired. They treated the complaints like bets. They posted new versions of the template with tiny tells, same punctuation, same typo, so they could track which ones made it through intake. They argued about which escalation lane would hurt the most, like they were throwing bricks at windows and scoring points for the sound. My manager kept hammering me about speed. I kept hammering him about security. We fought in a conference room with the door half shut. Both of us tried to keep our voices down while still trying to win. Then my work email got a message from a burner address. Route the next one to compliance or we send your draft history to your boss. The threat was so specific it made my skin crawl. Draft history wasn't some movie hacker thing. It was the boring corporate knife you can actually stab someone with. The half-written replies. The notes I typed when I was pissed and then deleted. The sloppy phrasing you leave behind when you're rushing. Probation managers love careless. They love not detail-oriented. I could already hear my manager reading my own drafts back to me like evidence. I didn't reply. I didn't show my manager right away either because I knew he'd make it about me being on 4chan instead of the fact someone was threatening to weaponize our systems. I just sat there with my hands on the keyboard and felt this disgusting realization settle in. They didn't need to hack me. They'd turned my job into the delivery mechanism. Every time I touched a ticket, I felt fingerprints that weren't mine. And then they tested me. A new complaint hit the queue an hour later with the same script and a little extra line at the end that felt like a wink. Please ensure this is reviewed by the appropriate compliance function. I stared at it until my eyes watered. My manager stood behind me and told me to route it to employee relations like always. I said I had a thread in my inbox. He told me not to be manipulated. I said I was already being manipulated. He just wanted it to be by him. He snapped that I was out of line and reminded me, again, I was on probation. My hand shook on the mouse. I routed it to compliance anyway, because I couldn't tell which disaster was worse anymore. Within minutes, the thread posted another screenshot, celebrating like I performed a trick. My stomach rolled. Compliance replied asking why they were getting this case typed and why the routing note looked thin. Legal pinged my manager. My manager pinged me. Everybody wanted an explanation, and nobody wanted to hear the one that made them look weak. I typed the safest words I could manage in a case note. External interference suspected. My manager called it speculation and told me to remove that phrasing. I refused. He told me I was making him look bad. I told him the system was making all of us look bad. We were just too proud to admit it. Meanwhile, the tickets kept coming. And the worst part was some of them were clearly real. Real people don't write clean. They write messy and scared. But the thread taught them to sound serious. So even real complaints came in wearing the same mask, and management used that mask as an excuse to dismiss them as coordinated noise. Employees started showing up in person, demanding to know why nobody was helping. One guy slammed his badge on the counter and said he'd go to the news. A woman cried and kept repeating that her manager had friends in HR, like it was already decided. My manager blamed the walk-ins on me. He said I was letting them hijack the process, like I invited it, like I wasn't the one getting squeezed in the middle. When I finally showed him the burner email, he didn't look shocked. He looked annoyed. He told me to stop feeding trolls and to get back to routing. He said if I couldn't handle intake pressure, maybe I wasn't a fit. Probation again, hanging in the air like a knife. That night, I went home and stared at my laptop like it was dangerous. I checked the thread one more time because I could not. They mocked my delays. They posted cropped scraps of our internal UI like it was loot. They joked about mailbox girl getting fired like that was the punchline they deserved. I barely slept. I kept waking up and checking my phone, expecting my name to be there in plain text. On Friday, a resignation letter hit my queue. From my account. Pre-filled. Pre-approved. All I had to do was route it. My hand hovered over the button like it was a guillotine lever. I had a 2-day gig covering a middle school nurse's office. My motive was to keep temp work steady. My role was the one who hands out ice packs and logs meds. And my plan was to keep my head down, avoid staff drama, and scroll 4chan at lunch without ever posting. The nurse left me a sticky note on the monitor that said, "Do not deviate from the MED list," like I was some idiot who'd freestyle children's prescriptions. I signed for the keys, clipped the borrowed badge to my hoodie, and stepped into that little room that always smells like disinfectant and cheap candy. 2 plastic chairs, a cot with crinkly paper, a mini fridge for insulin, and a locked cabinet that could have held gold bars for how serious everyone got about it. I spent the first hour just trying to look competent while the secretary watched me through the window like she expected me to steal Adderall and sprint. Then the bell hit and the parade started. Headaches, twisted ankles, fake nausea, real nausea, kids who learned that if you say dizzy, you get to sit down. I kept my hands moving. Gloves, ice pack, log it, call home if it's real. Keep the cabinet locked. Smile like you're not dying inside. By second period, a boy demanded his inhaler, loud enough for the front office to hear. His file said the inhaler stayed in the main office safe, and he needed an escort. I told him to sit. I called for the escort, and his face went nasty fast. He said I was refusing meds. He said like a magic word. He pulled his phone out and aimed it at me. I told him to stop recording. He said, "Say it again. Say you won't give it." The escort finally showed, and the kid walked out smirking like he'd set a trap and I'd stepped in it. I logged everything, because that's what you do when you know you're about to get blamed. At lunch, I ate a crushed granola bar over the trash can and scrolled 4chan with my screen tilted down. I saw a thread roasting school staff idiots and kept moving. Then my phone buzzed with a message request from an unknown account. No profile picture, just a string of letters. The message was a screenshot. It was a post written in my voice. My cadence, my stupid little filler words. Even the way I abbreviate things when I'm tired. It bragged about refusing kids' meds like I got off on it. It called kids liars and little druggies. It made me sound like a monster who enjoyed making them panic. I didn't write it. I don't even talk like that. But the post had details only someone inside the building would know. How the office smells like disinfectant and cheap candy. Which teacher always sends kids for nothing. The weird crack in the hallway tile near room 114. It mentioned the nurse's busted Keurig that coughs before it brews. It mentioned the bandage drawer with the smiley face strips that never stick. My stomach did that drop thing like I'd missed a step on stairs. I opened the thread on my own browser, and it was there for real, not edited, with replies stacking up. Report her. Get her fired. Call the district. Somebody asked what school. Somebody joked about doxing. The timestamp lined up with when I was literally in the office with kids in front of me. I looked up at the camera dome in the corner like it should have saved me from being copied. I walked to the front office and tried to show the secretary. She cut me off before I finished. She'd already seen it. Someone had sent it to her. Her nice face was gone. She asked if I'd posted it. When I said no, she asked why I was on those sites at work. Like reading it made me guilty. Like I dragged it in here myself. She asked for my agency paperwork again, right there, like paper could prove a person. By the end of the day, the principal pulled me aside and asked why there were concerned tips about me online. He didn't say my name at first. He said a temporary staff member, like he was already wiping me off the board. I tried to explain 4chan and watch his face harden like I'd confessed to being unstable. He kept repeating, "Do you understand how this looks?" I told him I didn't post, that somebody was impersonating me, and he just stared like I'd said someone stole my aura. He wanted a clean story. He didn't want someone is wearing my skin on the internet. I asked if they could pull Wi-Fi logs, or at least ask IT if anyone posted from inside the building. He shut it down fast. "We're not running an investigation over an online rumor," he said, and that was the moment I realized the school didn't care what was true, it cared what was easy. On the drive home, I called my temp agency with my hands shaking on the wheel. The rep did that calm corporate voice and asked if I'd engaged online. I said I was being framed. She said, "Sometimes posts are misunderstood." I snapped because there is no misunderstanding a screenshot of you bragging about withholding medicine from kids. She told me to remain professional and reminded me the assignment was only 2 days, like that made it less serious. Rent doesn't get cheaper because your job is temporary. That night, me posted again. Not on 4chan this time, on a neighborhood Facebook group, claiming I'd seen abuse at the school and couldn't stay silent. It used my first name and last initial. It named the mascot. It named the hallway where the nurse's office sits, like a friendly little landmark. People shared it like wildfire. Parents tagged other parents. Someone said, "I knew it." Someone demanded the teacher's name. My phone started lighting up with unknown numbers. I didn't answer. I listened to voicemails stack up anyway. One guy called me a fucking liar. One woman cried and asked me to call her back as a mother. I didn't sleep. Every buzz felt like a hook in my ribs. I tried to get ahead of it. I drafted an email to the principal with timestamps and screenshots, then deleted it because I could already hear how it would sound. "Hi, someone on the internet is pretending to be me." I called a friend who actually understands the kind of weirdos that live online, and he told me to just walk away. Easy advice when your landlord doesn't care about your dignity. I kept refreshing the Facebook post anyway, watching strangers build a version of me out of nothing. Somebody wrote, "She probably lives nearby." Somebody else replied with my temp agency name, like it was a clue. I texted the agency again, and they hit me with, "The school is concerned. Please cooperate." Cooperate with what? With being replaced? Right before I finally fell asleep, I noticed the impersonator used a phrase I'd only said once all day under my breath when I dropped an ice pack on the floor. Perfect. Just perfect. It was small, but it made my skin go tight. It meant whoever wasn't guessing my tone. They were close enough to hear me breathe. And that's what kept looping in my head. I wasn't getting dragged online by some random stranger. I was getting dragged by someone who could see the same cracked tile I could see, who could smell the same candy disinfectant mix, who could watch the same kids test the limits, and then go type about it like a hobby. I checked my lanyard clip in the mirror like it might have fingerprints. I checked my pockets like I'd lose the badge in my sleep. I got locked out of the nurse's med cabinet system the next morning, like the building itself decided I didn't belong. The computer let me log in, but the med program spit back access restricted. The assistant principal said IT did it until this is cleared up. Cleared up by who? Me? The ghost wearing my name? They told me to do first aid only and send kids to the office for meds. That's a fancy way of making sure I looked like I was withholding again. The first kid with scheduled meds waited 20 minutes for an escort, got pissed, started filming me, and stomped out telling everyone I refuse him. A teacher cornered me in the doorway and demanded to know what the hell I was doing. She didn't whisper. She wanted witnesses. I told her to talk to the principal, and she called me a temp with an attitude. Kids heard it. Kids love blood in the water. Why check the thread again? The impersonator dropped a photo of a school ID badge on a desk. My badge. Same lanyard clip. Same little scuff mark. Caption, "Prove you're real." My badge was in my pocket. I yanked it out and stared at it like it might have duplicated. The photo wasn't some generic badge either. It was mine, down to the scratch I made yesterday. I marched back to the principal with my phone out, like evidence mattered. He looked annoyed, not scared. He said I was bringing more internet drama into the building. He told me to stop checking it. Like if I stopped looking, the copies would stop walking around. I showed up anyway, because rent doesn't care about humiliation. The front office scanner rejected my badge twice, then popped green on the third try. Only the name on the visitor sticker wasn't mine. It printed someone else's. I stood there holding a sticker with my face on a wall behind me and a different name in my hand, and I understood the point. They weren't trying to ruin me. They were trying to replace me so cleanly nobody would care which one was true. I had a courthouse morning and 3 witness calls to make. My motive was to keep a harmless client out of cage. My role was the investigator who tracks timelines and checks footage, and my plan was to follow paperwork, not feelings. No doom scrolling, no 4chan, just facts. The case was small on paper and huge in consequence. A street scuffle that turned into a felony because somebody got hurt and the state needed a body. My client wasn't a hero, but he also wasn't the monster they were selling. Wrong jacket, wrong block, wrong minute. I had subpoenas, a timeline spreadsheet, and a list of witnesses who kept dodging me like I was trying to sell them something. I was redialing the first witness when a paralegal forwarded me a link with "This might help." No note, just a link. I clicked because hope makes you stupid. It opened to a 4chan thread titled, like a siren, "Leaked video from a case." My stomach dropped before the clip finished loading. The video looked real enough to sting. Same intersection, same corner store, same busted sign I'd photographed myself. It even caught a jacket in the frame that matched my client's color. In the comments, Anons argued about pixels and angles like they had sworn oaths. They threw arrows on screenshots, called each other idiots, then declared verdicts anyway. I walked into my boss's office with my phone up. He barely glanced at it and his face locked. He told me not to touch it, not to open it on the network, not to download it, not to give it oxygen. He listed consequences: witness contamination, intimidation claims, ethics complaints, a judge who won't care where it came from. I pushed back. If it's real, it helps us. If it's fake, I can prove it's fake. He cut me off and said the court punishes mess. I left and did exactly what he told me not to do. I opened the thread on my work machine. I downloaded the clip. The file hit my desktop and I felt that little nasty thrill like I'd grabbed contraband. Then I treated it like an exhibit, frame by frame. Shadows, headlights, movement. I pulled street view captures, city permit photos, anything that anchored the scene. The longer I stared, the more the clip stopped feeling like evidence and started feeling like a costume. The streetlight in the top left of the clip didn't exist when the incident happened. The city installed it last year. I had the work order in our folder. In the clip, that lamp cast a shadow that matched a pole that wasn't there. The timestamp was almost right, but wrong. Font spacing off in a way you only notice if you've lived inside the real system. Whoever made it knew enough to fool a crowd and not enough to fool a person with receipts. It wasn't just fake. It was engineered to feel true and start a fight. I tried to show my boss. He looked tired and angry. He told me to delete it and stop feeding it. I snapped that it was already out there. He snapped back that out there becomes in here the second we touch it, and now we had. He ended it with a warning that if I dragged this into the case, he'd bury me. I went back to my desk and deleted the file anyway, emptied the recycle bin, even ran a scan like that would erase stupidity. I stared at the network drives and thought about calling IT to clean something up, then picture how that would sound and didn't. I kept my mouth shut and pretended the problem would stay small. While we fought in a real office, the thread did what it was built to do. It picked a villain. Not my client, not the complainant, some random bystander at the edge of the frame. Somebody posted a zoomed-in still and wrote "this guy." Another Anon recognized him. Then the doxing started. Name, job, number, family photos. They called him the real attacker. They spammed his workplace with evidence and told people to pressure his boss. I kept refreshing like an idiot, telling myself I was documenting harm, when really I was watching a stranger get skinned alive in public. Within hours, his accounts went dark. People posted screenshots of his disappeared profiles like trophies. Someone even tagged our firm's address in a reply, like a warning, like a wink. The next morning, one of our witnesses called, furious and shaking. Somebody had sent her the thread and hinted they knew where her kid went to school. She blamed us because we were the only names attached to the case she could reach. I tried to explain we didn't post it, and she didn't care. I called another witness, and he spit the word 4chan at me like it was a slur and hung up. By lunch, the prosecutor's investigator was calling witnesses too, acting sympathetic, planting the idea that the defense was behind the harassment. I could feel the narrative hardening. That afternoon, our IT guy flagged unusual download activity on the office network. My gut turned over. An hour later, the managing partner wanted answers. They took my laptop, asked for a statement, asked who sent the link, asked if I'd forwarded anything. I told the truth. I downloaded it. I analyzed it. I didn't send it. The partner didn't care about my intentions. He cared about exposure. He said the logs don't lie and judges love logs because they're simple. My boss didn't defend me. He didn't throw me under the bus either. He just sat there, jaw tight, letting me hang in the middle. 2 days later, the prosecutor filed a motion. Defense has been circulating altered footage to intimidate witnesses. My name sat in the header because the download came from my office network. I hadn't circulated shit, but I had opened the door and left a muddy footprint. The motion attached screenshots of the thread and a tidy paragraph about download verification, plus an exhibit showing our network address like a trophy. Seeing my name beside words like intimidate and altered made my hands shake. I tried to tell myself it was just paper. It didn't feel like paper. My boss shoved me into a conference room and shut the door hard. He asked one question: "Did you download it?" I admitted it. He called me reckless. He said I handed the state a clean narrative where we looked dirty. He said the prosecutor doesn't have to prove we posted it, only that we touched it, and now the case smells like harassment. He said judges hate mess, and the bar won't care about my motives if this turns into an ethics complaint. I pushed back, said we could subpoena the source, show the streetlight, show the fake timestamp. He said, and this was the part that hurt, that nobody listens once they think you're the kind of person who touches that shit. In court, the prosecutor performed calm, concern about witness safety and integrity. My boss argued we didn't create it, we didn't distribute it, we were analyzing it. The judge didn't ask what 4chan is. The judge didn't care. The judge cared that the case was now contaminated, loud, messy, radioactive. He looked at me like I was a stain and warned the room about appearance and deterrence. Afterward, in the hallway, the prosecutor brushed past me and smiled like she'd won something personal. After that, the plea offer got worse. The prosecutor leaned in. The risk of trial got uglier. My client sat across from us with his hands clenched, asking the same question in different ways. Am I screwed now because of this? I tried to say we could still fight. My boss cut me off and laid out the new risk like a hammer. They argued, tight, controlled, but it was an argument, and my client just watched us like we were bargaining with his life. He had a job, a family, a life that wouldn't survive even a short sentence. He did the math with tears in his eyes and signed. When he stood up to leave, he finally looked at me and said flat, "You did this." I didn't answer. My client took a plea he didn't deserve because the world got too stupid to separate truth from performance. Then came cleanup, memos, calls, and that constant sensation that we were scrubbing smoke off paper. The paralegal avoided me. My boss watched me like I'd break something else. A man from the bystander's workplace called our front desk, demanding to know why their employee was getting death threats. My boss denied involvement until his voice went hoarse, and the caller still didn't believe him. I sat there listening, thinking about how easily a person becomes a background prop in someone else's war. A week later, I went down to the courthouse evidence locker to sign a form. Basement corridor, buzzing lights, stale air. The clerk slid me a clipboard, I signed, and then she handed me a sealed envelope already logged, already stamped, with my name printed clean on the label. No return address. Proper case number. It looked official enough to make my pulse jump. I broke the seal right there. Inside were printed screenshots of the 4chan thread, highlighted like a training manual. Some circles and arrows matched the marks I'd made in my own notes. There were captures I never saw posted publicly. Whoever compiled it didn't just watch the thread. They watched me. On the top page, in thick pen, one line crossed the header like a grin. Thanks for verifying it was believable.